Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. It is the 14th of September, and yeah, we're back with a little bit of an extension of what we did last week. So hopefully that'll be something interesting to kind of push this maybe a little bit further. We'll probably do that for a little bit, and then go on to some other things. As you know, as everyone is maybe interested, or might kind of throw some ideas out there for what we can work on next. Um, yeah, so it was a very nice long weekend for me. I had a nice vacation with my family, which was great. And hey, Zach, how's it going? Glad to have you on the stream. Nice to have you here. Um, yeah, so I had a nice long weekend. Got to get away to one of the Finger Lakes in New York, which was wonderful, and just spent some time out there, just relaxing, having a good time, and actually worked remotely from there for a day as well, which was a pretty fun, which was pretty fun as well. So, um, I'm also, as you can probably tell, wearing my glasses today. So we'll see how this goes. I'm gonna give this a shot to see if it's a little easier for me to see. Sometimes I have my contacts in, but today I didn't put them in. So we're going to do glasses and see how that works. I usually don't use them at the computer, but I kind of feel like it's nice. So I look a little different today, but whatever. Yeah, so Vellum, to bring us up to date on where we were last week, we had we had a little flip that was getting pulled apart here. Had them connected up to some constraints, and as it simulates, it pulls them apart, and kind of makes a nice kind of rough tear across this geometry. In fact, we even went so far as to kind of set where this was getting torn and some of those kind of attributes as well. But I think we were talking a little bit about it last week while I was streaming, and I was like trying to think of a good way to do it a little chunkier, and I just couldn't think of it on the fly. I think I was a little bit, I don't know, I just wasn't thinking about it properly. So I thought about it today, and I think we can come up with something a little bit more interesting. I won't let this sim all the way to the end, but you get the idea. He gets pulled apart. Let me see here. Let me turn the solver down a little bit here. We don't need it maybe quite as long. And I don't know. Let's set this to 150. That'll be good. One thing you'll notice when you do turn those down is that it will not, the iteration, or I'm sorry, the constraints won't be satisfied quite as much, so you'll get this much more active simulation here. We could try to do it like, let's see if this is any faster. I'm not sure. I always forget if, yeah, it's probably a little faster to do it that way. So we'll just have some high constraint iterations for right now. But anyways, so what I was thinking about was what we had previously was this random breaking, right? We had like a random break threshold. We threw some noise in there and things like that. Like we're setting this to noise. And let's take a look at what we had here. So we had this break threshold set. And why is that not? Oh, because that's not on. So that's the section that was breaking. And we had some kind of chunky behavior in there and stuff like that. So I was thinking about it today, and I was like, well, wait, why wouldn't I use something like more akin to like a Voronoi pattern and use that to kind of drive this breaking constraint, right? Because we can use the attributes in that Voronoi noise to help make these stronger or weaker. So I'm not going to obviously go back through the whole situation we had here, but I'm just going to kind of build off on the side here. Obviously, one of the nice things about Houdini is you can have, separate sections and kind of switch between them and all that kind of stuff. So let's do this. Let's do a point vop. Yeah, if I can type, we'll do a point vop. There we go. And we'll drag this into here. And I'm going to turn that off for right now. Okay, so we've got all of our constraints coming through here. And what I'm going to do is go into this and create a Voronoi noise. And so the way that this is going to work is it's going to create a few different attributes that we can work with here. So a little tip, if you're in a VOP network, you can hold down X and that'll help you visualize stuff. So we could visualize this output. Now this needs to be on as well. So I'm gonna turn that off. There we go. You don't want to have any other visualizers running, but this will run a visualizer. And if you look up here, it's going to be all the same kind of, situation that you would normally have. So let's increase the frequency here. We can kind of start to see what we're getting, right? So if you're not familiar with Voronoi, kind of the idea is that you kind of have these source points that are scattered somewhere, and then you measure the distance to them, and that creates these cells, right? So this is going to make these kind of little chunks in our geometry here. And so we can kind of think of this as the red is going to be the weak parts and the black are going to be the strong parts. Maybe visually it would work the other way too. But for right now, we'll just kind of say that that's, going to be our setup. And you can see, obviously we can make smaller chunks. We could make these really big chunks, kind of go anywhere in between. So maybe we'll start with like 6 to give it a shot, something like that. Okay. So I'm going to do a bind export here. Oh, and let's take a look at these other ones here too. So this distance is going to be, I can't remember the difference here. I think it's just that it's not, it doesn't seem like the values go as far away from each other. I'm not 100% sure what that is there. I can't remember the differences here. And if you look at this, the near 1 and 2, that's going to give you an attribute that'll be, so like what we can do is do random from attribute. I think we'll do it. Nope. Right. Because that is thinking it's a, not sure why that's not working. But what this is oh, there we go. I just need to turn it on and off. Let's do auto. There we go. Yeah, just wasn't visualizing properly. So what this is basically doing is this is like your kind of like your seed number, more or less, or like a random like hash or something like that, that would get output, from each point that it's close to, right? So each of these is getting their own kind of unique ID for these patches. So you could work off of this as well, but I think the easiest way to do any of this stuff is going to be actually, setting it up with just weaker areas, in between these patches. And that's pretty much, if you look at this, all right, now that's going to freak out. So hold on. Oh, right. Cause it's on, we're going to do attribute as is. And now you can see here that these are pretty much set up the exact same way as these near points are. So I'm going to do this random from attribute again. Just take a look at that. And so here you're getting a little bit of a different pattern, and this one is going to match up to this distance too. And I'd have to look into this. I can't remember what those outputs are. In fact, let's just open up the help and just see what it is, so I understand what it is better. Distance 1 is the amount of generated noise. Huh. Interesting. Doesn't really. Oh, interesting. I have to look that up. Not 100% sure what those other ones are. And then there's also a seed value here as well that you can drive. So these are all different ways of getting kind of the same noise pattern out, basically. What we're going to use is just the distance. Call it good. We're going to grab this. Let's call this maybe just, we'll just call it, I don't know, V dist or something like that, because we know this is the Voronoi distance. And we'll just use that as is. Why don't we promote one of these here? We'll promote the frequency, I think. That should work. And I'm not actually sure what jitter will do for us. Let's see here if that'll get us anything. All right, so what we can do is look at this V dist here. Great, now we've got this, these distances to these, basically to these Voronoi points, right? And I'm not sure if this will add any noise into there. Unfortunately, it won't. I was kind of hoping it would. Oh, okay, there it is. Okay, that's jittering those initial points, right? So in this case, we could make it extremely uniform like this, and we're going to have basically a grid of points, right? And then as we jitter it, it looks like it'll only allow us to go up to 1. Won't really do anything past that. Can't jitter past 1. So we could turn the jitter up and down. That's fine. But this will give us some nice variation too, so that's fine. Okay, great. So we've got this V dist. Let's do this attribute adjust float and put this in here. I'm going to change the pattern to remap. If you remember last time we used that, and what we can do is do that V dist in here. We can compute the range, which it'll grab right there. And so now we can map this to 0 to 1, or to whatever attributes we might want it to be. So what we could do is set, let's see, I'm not going to do P scale. We're going to do, what were we using before here? So we were using probably break threshold, I would think. Let me just double check here. Yep, break threshold. So what I'm going to do is actually twofold. I'm going to set the break threshold based on these here to be 0 to 1. And what that's going to do, we'll just do break threshold. And this is a point attribute. So this is going to be not exactly what we're looking for right now. We have break threshold. So we're going to need to promote that to a primitive attribute, right? So right now we have this set to 0 and 1. And I think what I'm going to do is set the minimum and maximum here. So at this point, we have them set to 0 and 1, which is good. And I'm just trying to think here. So the distance, the lower the distance is to those points, actually we probably want that to be opposite. So I'm just thinking. I just have to remap this and think about this properly. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to set this range to be where it breaks, right? And then everything else will keep solid. And so let's adjust this a little bit and rethink this a little bit, right? So what I can do is let's visualize this break threshold here. Make sure it's on primitive, so that's not going to work. Just changing it over to point. Hopefully that will get us what we need here. Break threshold. No? There we go. Okay. So we've got our break threshold here. And now this should, well, it's actually auto. So let's just adjust that. Minimum, maximum. We'll do 0 and 1. Just to make sure that as I adjust these, we're gonna see the change. So great. Okay, so the minimum value is going to be 0, maximum value is going to be 1. So we'll make sure that we're going to switch those because we want it to be 0 and 1 like that. And so instead, let's do the distance to these points. The source, we can just adjust these here, right? So we can take these and adjust them like that, and that'll be the parts that'll break up right? Like that. So we can kind of tweak this, and if we do it like this, right, only those little areas there are going to be what we're going to be breaking, right? And so 0 would have 0 strength. 1 we'll just say is going to have complete strength, and in this case we'll just set that to -1 so it doesn't break at all. So let's just adjust this a little here. So maybe it'll be something like, I don't know, 0.4 maybe. Something like that. And this way we know we have the maximum distance set. We could always lower this as well, and then we'll definitely have these big chunks that break. But I think we want to have it set like that. And so then we can do the minimum value. We can set this to like 350. Again, I'm just going to tweak this just so we have this. Let's do 350. There we go. And if we adjusted this down, we would see that that changes. Great. Okay. So if we get it to be equal to 350, in the next step, I'm just basically going to set that to -1. So we can see here we have breaking thresholds. There's a ton that are going to be 350 exactly. So what I'm going to say is just do a quick point wrangle and say, well, actually, you know what? Let's promote this first, because then I can just run it over the primitives and we will know that they'll break or not. So let's do a attribute promote. And the reason that we're doing this is because these are all point attributes right now. And if you came in here and looked, you would see that some of these primitives change, kind of fade color over their length. And we actually want, what that's saying is that those values are on each of those points. We want to bring it up to a primitive attribute. So we're going to take this break threshold right here, and we're going to bring it up to the primitive right there. And in fact, right now we have all of those set to 100. And so when we bring that up, it's going to rewrite over top of those. So some of them will be 100 and some of them will be, incredibly low down to like something like 3. Now, we probably want to adjust that. We probably want to give this something low, like, I don't know, 50 maybe we'll start with 50 just to make sure that they break, or to see if they break. So now we have ones that go to 50 and then all the way up to 350 as we go up. Great. And so now each of these has just one value. They're not going to be changing over the length of these constraints. And so we have break threshold there. I'm just going to do a prim wrangle. Should be pretty simple. Basically what we're going to do is say if at break threshold is equal to, we'll just say 350. I'll just hard code that for right now. There is a way you could change that. Basically what we would do is actually, I'll just do that. We'll do ch and we'll say, call it maximum break val or something like that. Cool. All right. So when you say channel like this, what we're going to do there is we're just going to hit this. This is going to give us our maximum break value. And in this case, we can just copy this parameter, paste a relative reference there. And now we've got that value that's driving this, and it's looking at 350. If we change it, it's going to look for that new value to go against. So if our maximum value changes, we can go against that. So what we can do is do at break. Well, I can just copy this here. I think this will work. Hopefully this won't make like a weird loop. I don't think it will. We'll just say at break threshold equals -1. Sure enough, there we go. So now we've got this crazy, like it gets red and then blue in the middle. So you can see it's getting like more and more red. It's getting stronger and stronger, and then it gets infinitely strong basically in the middle. So we have this. Let's put this back in here. We're going to put this down here and see how this works. See if what we did is going to give us a good result. So I'm just going to bypass this and take a look at these constraints, and we'll see what happens here. Let's hit play and we'll let it sim. So what I'm doing right now is I'm visualizing just those output constraints. And so what I can do then is take a look at, when they're breaking, when they're, what's happening with them basically. So as this stretches, we'll see how this kind of chunky value, like what happens with it and where these constraints break. Yep, I can see it starting to break there around the neck, I believe. I can see some constraints breaking here. Maybe the minimum might be too high. So we'll take a look at that in a second here. But already, what you're going to see, I have a feeling, is, let's take a look at this. Or this, there we go. What you're going to see is that this is going to have this like kind of crazy break angle, right? So this is going to do some much stranger stuff as far as like how it's going to break. It's not going to break along some very, consistent, angle or whatever. So I think I'd like for it to break a little bit sooner and maybe not so, be so hard to break. So let's bring this down to 25 and that should be good. And let's take a look at this again. I'm going to watch the output here and see what happens. So all of these purple ones should never break, basically. That's the idea here. And then the rest of them will break based on, how much pressure we're putting into it, basically, how much stretching value is happening there, how much stress is putting into these constraints. I'm going to just turn down these sub-steps just so we can get it a little quicker, because I think we understand the idea here. Just going to turn this down a little. A little more stretchy. Yeah, there we're starting to get some more of that, chunky kind of behavior that I think we were looking for a little bit more there. So we'll watch this for a second. But so yeah, there's starting to get to be this kind of chunk that splits off here, and so we can kind of I think we can adjust that a little bit by going in here, and let's see here. If we take this and up the frequency on it, we can get smaller pieces, right? So this is going to give us much smaller areas where these things will kind of split and break apart. We could even jitter it maybe down a little bit, something like that. See how that goes. And I'm actually going to bring the value down just slightly here. just to see if that won't give us any slightly quicker results here on this breaking. Oh, I need to let it go a little further, apparently. Thanks. Yeah, it's starting to get kind of interesting. That one got shot really far. So yeah, like with these kinds of simulations, obviously the substeps and the constrained iterations are going to adjust how stretchy that's going to get. Right now it's really low, so it's letting it stretch and do all this crazy stuff. But anyways, the more that you kind of push that and the more that you go in these different directions, the more you can get these kind of chunky behaviors. And we could go the other way as well. And we could do something that's a little bit bigger. Maybe like, I don't know. We'll try in there maybe. Just to see. Now this should be a little bit larger kind of chunks that happen and stuff like that. Let this do its thing. Should get a little bit cleaner cut here, but maybe be a little bit bigger chunks and stuff like that. So we'll see how this goes. Yeah, it looks like it actually doesn't even want to break because of where the strong sections are there. So, yeah. So anyways, there's a bunch of different stuff you could do there, but that's another way that you could kind of make these chunks a little bit different, break it up in a slightly different way. And if we wanted to, we could take this and instead of setting those to be infinitely strong, or we could leave them like that, and then take this to be really, really low. Put this, okay, those are infinitely strong. We'll make sure that these are I'm going to make the frequency a bit higher here. Set the jitter back up. And then instead of pinning it to these spheres, I might just drop it and let it break apart. So what we should have now is some really weak constraints. Let me just double check that this is actually getting as low as we'd like it. Interesting. I don't know why it's not getting so low. Just checking why these aren't getting as low as I would like for them to. Might be not thinking about something properly here. Hold on. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pin this here, keep this viewer active so that as I change these here, I can see what values we're going to here. Okay. There we go. That was my problem. I was bringing the wrong range down. Should be bringing this one down. So now we should have some that are very weak and some that are nice and chunky. So let's see what this does. So that's like a nice chunky sim there. And let's see. Let's see if we were to attach these together. See what would happen here. Yep, there you can see that we're getting some bigger, chunkier pieces there. And if I just turn this up maybe just a little bit. We should have it maybe not quite so weak. We'll have some of these that are definitely remaining. So like that. All right. Now we're doing good. So we can do something like that. All right. I think now we're in a better spot here. Let's take a look at how this works now. Sorry, my math got away from me there a little bit. I was doing the wrong stuff. There we go. That's more or less what I think we were looking for, something like that, where it's a little bit chunkier. Then we can start to play with these values, right? So we could go maybe a little chunkier like this. We could bring that max value up a little bit. And then less should break apart at the beginning. Get a little bit more as it stretches out, stuff like that. Yeah, that's exactly what we were looking for, I think. Something a little bit more interesting like that. You know, we're getting a little bit more of these chunks that are kind of developing here. And you can now drive those based on this value here. So we could go way higher with the frequency, and we should have much smaller chunks in that situation where it kind of breaks apart. Here at the neck, it should be quite a bit smaller as far as those pieces go. And so there should be less maybe breaking at first, but we're getting tinier little pieces in here, right? Getting smaller chunks as this goes. So now we're getting a much chunkier look with that. And then, you know, conversely, if we took this and went the other way with it, yep. Something like that. We're going to get nice big chunky pieces. And now you can see these pieces are much bigger that it's breaking apart into, and it's going to, affect it differently. So again, kind of all based on how you want to, make something like this work. Hopefully that makes a little bit more sense and is kind of an addition to what we kind of worked off of last time. So what I was thinking was there's a couple different options I was kind of thinking we could do. Yeah, there are some nice little strands there. He's getting gruesome. It's getting gruesome up in here. But yeah, he's got some nice little, hanging sections and things like that. This is even kind of interesting because he's got this whole section over here that's kind of falling apart and doing all this stuff. And there you can see this is breaking as well. So if we play that back full speed, we'll get to see some of those things happening there. I think hopefully that's a little bit more of what you were thinking of. And it's definitely a much less neat and tidy thing. But anyways, there is our little animation of poor Flip getting torn apart. So what I was thinking was had a couple of ideas here. So would you guys that are watching the stream right now, would you be interested in something talking a little bit more about maybe like Solaris layout tools, or talking about doing some vellum cloth, or maybe something else? Do you have something else that you would like to kind of get into? Because I think we have I have some ideas for some different stuff to do, but I was hoping to maybe get some feedback on the Discord, but got some ideas for different some different topics and stuff like that. So just curious, just to kind of throw it out there, what are you guys interested in? Would Solaris stuff be cool? Would more Vellum stuff be cool? Maybe some cloth, or I don't know. Just curious what everybody's interested in learning about tonight. Crumpling paper. That's interesting. Yeah, let's do some cloth then. Why not? Crumpling paper is certainly interesting. I'm not sure if I would have an idea for that specifically at the moment, but that certainly is an interesting idea. I'm gonna just save this and let's pop open a new project. Yeah, that'd be great. We'll do some cloth. Let's do it. Let me save this as, what? That was weird. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, for sure. So let's do this. I'll set up my, so I guess I'll just kind of go through some of the basics, and then we'll start to go from there. So let's just do this. Let's do a geometry node, and we'll just say Vellum cloth sim something. Or actually, I like to put the sim at the first part. So let's do sim Vellum cloth. Can you do Vellum struts on a 2D grid? Are you talking about for doing like soft body stuff on a grid? Is that, I guess that must be what you're asking about? Because I'm thinking with, so Vellum struts are usually used as like internal, basically like internal strengthening for. Oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Extra constraints on a flat plane. My microphone got loose. Hold on. I feel like my microphone is down low. Okay, well, I was hoping to get some extra constraints on a flat plane. All right. Yeah, so in order to stiffen it, is that what you're saying? Like to stiffen up the plane? Is that your idea? I'm assuming that that's probably what you're meaning. I'll just start doing some stuff here while you're answering that. So put down a grid, and I don't know. Let's do 100 by 100, something like that. Cool. Yeah, I'm guessing you're meaning like to stiffen the grid that you're making. That's what I'm guessing, but I'm not 100% sure. Right. So you're talking. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna say I don't think that would be what you would want, and the reason for that is, yeah, I think I see what you're saying. So like you're pushing a section of cloth or paper or whatever, and really not only that section is moving, it's not like propagating through the entire cloth, basically. Yeah. Okay. So I think what might be happening there is that your substeps might not be constraining it to what you're trying to do. So what I would think you would actually want to do is just have a bit more stiffness in it, because like, so there's a couple things that let me kind of work through this, and we'll talk about it a little bit. So like, all right, so we've got this transform here. Let's just do a Vellum cloth, configure cloth. That's a great starting point here. So we'll do this, and this is going to give us our thickness and everything like that. So we can visualize the thickness there. So that's how thick whatever it is that you're working on. So, maybe that's too thick. Maybe we want it more like that or something like that, 0.15, something like that. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pin some points. So let's like pin some of these points over here. So let's select it, and I'm just going to make, just do something like this and just select this whole strip of them here, and control and just deselect those. So we've got this whole strip that we're going to pin, right? So those are all going to be pinned. They're going to be permanent. And so if I do a Vellum solver, why am I typing sim? That's the wrong word. If you do a Vellum solver and start simming this, right? We hit play, should just fall down, do its standard, thing like this, right? But what you're going to notice is that this is stretching out like absolute crazy, right? Like this is way longer than it was when it started. So I'm going to let this finish its simulation here, right? Also, this is gigantic, so that we should probably fix that, because you don't need it that big, because this is what, a 10 by 10 meter cloth. So this is like a gigantic flag or something. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at where this kind of settles. Its size is 10.18, and it starts obviously 10 by 10. So it's stretched by like 1/10 of a meter, right? So it's probably stretched by like a half foot or something like that. And obviously these constraints aren't doing a whole lot. It's just kind of pinned in those positions, and we're getting a lot of stretching and stuff here. So what we would probably want to do for this is add some substeps in, right? So let's do something like that and see if we can get this to be a more stable solution. And so this should hopefully, it'll take a little bit longer, right? But what we're trying to do here is make sure that our substeps are going to allow this to properly satisfy the conditions that we're giving each of those constraints in that cloth. So let's first of all just look at this here, right? So we've got it 140, something like this. And you can see now we're basically right about at that right size. So we've basically constrained this to the exact same shape. And in fact, this probably is actually easier to see if we have it something like that. Maybe let me just see what these pinned points are real quick. Yeah, let me deselect those. We'll pin these top points here. I'm just going to do this as quick as possible. So I think cloth is where you see this quite a bit more than in other things. All right, so those are all pinned. Great. Let's just set this back, turn these back down, and just let it go. You should see it stretch out, right? And it's going to stretch out and get longer there. We can see, it's stretching. It's obviously longer than it should be. In fact, why don't we just do this? We'll make it go up by exactly 5. Then we can use this ground plane to really see how far it's stretched out. So there we go. We can see that it's stretching a little bit there. And the interesting thing is in our stretchiness, we have it set to the highest number. So this should be very stiff. So again, if we up this value, we should have almost no stretching now, right? So now we've got a nice constrained value. We're getting a little just rustling just from it, settling and stuff like that. So that's cool. So great. I'm going to go back and set this again back to its plane like this, because I want to take a look at the bend strength as well, right? Because we have the bend, stiffness is going to affect how it's moving here. So let's take a look at that. Our bend stiffness is very low. So let's revert this to defaults. Take a look at that real quick. See what that looks like. So we're going to have a little bit of we're going to have a little bit more bend available. And this curve you're going to see is going to start to round out a little bit, because it's not letting this it's not letting this just go straight down anymore, right? So that's what we're starting to look for. So let's just pump this up a little bit. I don't know, 1,000. Let's try that. See where that gets us. You can see we're getting less bend here. We're starting to get this bigger curve. So let's do this. Let's up this. Let's just go crazy with it and see if we can get this to stay straight. No, doesn't look like we're going to be able to get that to stay straight. Let me just double check here, make sure I'm not missing something. Rest angle scale. Let's see if that's what I wanted. Maybe that'll do better. So let's just see if this will help us. A little bit. All right, let me try one more thing here and just make sure that I'm not missing something. Oh, well, you know what? It is gigantic and super heavy, so makes sense that it's not going to want to do that. So let's just do this. Set it to 1 by 1. We'll move it up by maybe by 1. Yeah, I think yeah, I think that's works exactly the same. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure that that'll work exactly the same. They just do it this way so that you can have a stiffness value here and go up by factors of 10. So, no, it's not a new question at all, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that works exactly the same. I don't know 100% that that's true, but it is a multiplier, so it should. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. Let's just go back here. Just make sure that I'm not missing anything. Oh, that's not happy. What happened there? Okay. I broke it. Hold on. Let's turn that down and make sure I didn't do something. Maybe it's just the density was way too low. Let's try that again. Not sure what's going on there. Why that's happening. Oh, probably because I have these set. No. That would work. Sorry. Just thinking through this. That's weird. Why is that happening? Maybe that's too small? Shouldn't be, but let's just see. I think I need to reset this. I have a feeling it's just freaking something out. What is it doing? That is really weird. Like, it's almost like it thinks that the rest lengths are the same, even though it... Let's change this back to something more reasonable, because that's insane. Let's change that. I'm not sure. Well, it definitely was something in that. Interesting. So it's a lot faster with it like that. Oh, yeah. Could you type in like 1,000,000 into that? Yeah. Yeah, you could. I mean, I think at a certain point there's diminishing returns. But yeah, you definitely could. You could do that as well. All right, so let's just do this. Should get us a little bit better. Okay. I think we're just way too stiff. Yeah, maybe maybe it just can't. Maybe the cloth constraint is too strong for that. What I was thinking originally when you said about like, crumpling and things like that was doing something where we took the paper like this or whatever it is, right? And just kind of rotated it and dropped it down, onto a corner and see kind of how that crumples and stuff like that from there. Let's just kind of twist this a little bit more. Maybe we'll do it something like that. And I'm unpin these points and just let this drop. See how this works. All right, turn that off. Yep, got us out of ground plane, that's for sure. Oops. All right, we're getting something there. Let's see. Okay, so what we've got going on here is the bend stiffness is making it kind of flap back out here. It's not letting it stay so flat. And I think if we add in some plasticity, let's see. So this plasticity should allow for it to not regain its shape, basically. So let's see what happens with this here. Yeah, it still feels a little papery, though, or a little fabric-y. Let's see here. So let's see if we add in some of this compression stiffness, what that does for us. Oops. Interesting. All right, so that set it back, kind of pushed it back out, right? So it's got stiffness now in its compression axis, basically. So if we turn that completely off, just out of curiosity. I'm surprised that it is. Let's just turn on some plasticity for both of these and see what happens here. So, yeah, it might need to be. Let me just check here. Yeah, let's give that a shot. I'm not going to do the stretch. Let's try that. Yeah, there you go. That's starting to do something a little bit more interesting. It's like staying folded, basically. But what I'm, kind of thinking it needs to be something different here. You just try a different mode. Yeah, let's try something completely different because I'm wondering if this cloth is actually what's causing the issue. Let's see, Vellum. I wonder if shape match will do it. Hey, okay. Okay, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. So shape match is probably what we're going to want, because if we want it to be able to break and do all that kind of stuff, this is going to be something a bit more like that. And so we could turn the stiffness down just to see what this does. This is going to make it like softer, right? So it's going to be able to kind of bring more of that like that, you know, that impact into it. So let's bring it down a little bit more and see where we can get with that. Yep. So it like tries to go right back to where it was, which is really funny because like, let me just see what this exactly does. Yeah, like it wants to try to do that. So let's try adding the plasticity in here and see what we can get. So let's set this back up a little higher and see what we can get going on here. So hopefully we can get this to deform and stay there. That'll kind of be the idea. All right, so let's up the hardening a bit. So we'll do it to like 5, maybe the rate. I don't know. Totally guessing here. Sure. I don't know. Let's try that. Yeah. That's kind of interesting. Get like a damaged end there. Now the question is, why are we getting so much? Just only that one little corner to be affected here. Okay, that's something. We've got this crumpled edge here that we've got going on. That's something. So I'm turning the plasticity, let's see. Turning the plasticity, I'm sorry, the damping ratio down a little bit, just so that we get a little bit, like a little bit of bounce back from it. Let me just see if we add these both together. I'm just kind of curious, because this actually isn't setting any, it isn't setting any like density, edge length, nothing like that. So I'm just curious if these two together will do something interesting. Or just break the whole thing. Who knows? Okay. Let me just see. I'm just going to try to turn this way down and see what happens. Not sure. Sure if this will do anything interesting, but we'll give it a shot. So I think what's happening here is that we're getting, these guides are a little bit too, I don't want to say too long, but I have a feeling that these are pretty long. And this is probably almost what you were working on before, Zach, is my guess. Let's take a look at these, see what these constraints look like. Yep, sure enough, they're probably about the length. Hard to say exactly how long these are because they're all more or less in a oh, it's all one. It's all one. Interesting. So it's connecting the top to the bottom. And so that It's close to maybe what we wanted, but it's a little bit too solid. Okay. Okay. So instead of shape match, let's try something different. Let's see if maybe these struts would work. I don't know. No, you know what? These are going to be looking for, what's the word? These are going to be looking for, yeah. So the shape match seems like it's because it's kind of going down the row and then back. It's like creating these like all these triangles basically. So it's like able to deform a little bit, but it's not enough to like really do something interesting. So that's not good. I'm just trying to think of what the best what the best version of this is going to be. Well, that's nothing, but let's see here. Just want to see if this is more or less a cloth constraint. Oh, yep, doesn't like that. That's going to blow everything up. Yeah, yeah. Saw that coming. Just wondering if I could add something to this. Maybe to stiffen it up a little bit, we could do like a couple of things here. See if like a couple constraints together would do something interesting. All right, I'm going to turn off the plasticity here. And I actually turn down the stretch stiffness just a little bit. Actually, no, I don't want it to stretch. I want it to deform. I'm feeling we need to mess with this somehow here. All right, let me just see if there's something I'm missing here. I might just be missing something very obvious. Yeah, those are just... wonder if, oh, right. I wonder if no triangulation would do anything different. Nope, just looked terrible. Oops. Let's see if I really crank these. Just out of curiosity. All right, so we've got those. I'm just going to set these back to default. Stiffness is high. Bend stiffness is high. All right, cool. Let's try this out. See where this gets us. Kind of curious if I up this, if this is going to get closer and closer. I'm just going to go a little crazy here and see what happens. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely getting stiffer. It's interesting. Just see. Oop, I guess I should leave that. Just see what happens if we go higher on that and just go totally crazy. It's weird. It's like it wants to get stiffer, but it won't do it. I feel like I'm missing something very simple. All right, let's try this. Let's see if we can take some of this damping, or damp some of this out, just out of curiosity. Oops. Turn this down a little bit. I feel like we might be getting a little carried away there. So, that is a strange one. Right, could the shape match only be applied to sections of the grid? Yeah. Maybe it could be. Yeah, let's take a look at that. It's an interesting question. Let's see. So if we do a vellum, can we do shape match? No. Yeah, so it's interesting. There's not really a good way to go about saying, you know, what is. Let me cut this real quick. You know, what these sections or pieces are, right? So, like, in here, we can set pieces from an attribute, right? But in here, it doesn't actually give us that option to set pieces. We could scale it by an attribute, right? So we could scale the stiffness by an attribute. But if you remember, when we set this here, even if this is super low, let's just go low. Not sure what that's going to do specifically, but we'll take a look at it. Oh boy, that's interesting. What just happened there? Too low, maybe? Maybe. Let's try it again. Sometimes you try something and it's just way too low. Okay. Now what the heck's happening? All right, let's see what happens here. What's happening now? What just happened? What did it do? Oh my goodness. Well, maybe my problem was just not enough substeps. Although that is absolutely freaking out. Okay. Weird. Okay, hold on a second. Let me just do that one more time. Yeah, it did look pretty nice. I don't understand why that's different. All right, so there's that. Let me just go back to where this was before. See if that's what we're missing here. Okay, yep. So if we do this, are we going to get a better solution? Let's see. So the interesting thing was at the end of that simulation, it just was like sliding, which obviously you don't want. So let's check this out. Let's go back to where we were. 300. Okay, let me just undo this and see where we were before this. 8 and 200, sorry, not 300. What? All right. So what did I have different here that let that happen? I'm gonna let this keep going. I just want to see what this is gonna do. I think it's gonna go shooting off and do something really crazy. Oh man, it's super confused. I don't know what it's doing. I broke Vellum. I broke it. Ooh. Oh, that's crazy. What in the world did I do here? Oh, I see. This is distance along edges. It's become it knows. It knows what it wants to do now. That wasn't shape match. That was distance along edges, which is bizarre that that's what it did. Very interesting. Okay. I think, yeah, I think that might be why it's doing that, because it has no mass, so it doesn't know what to do with itself. Let's just double check. Nope. Interesting. This doesn't have any bend stiffness to it. Very interesting. All right, so let's okay, let me first try this compression stiffness, make sure that does, see if that does anything. I mean, yeah, this definitely has like a nice look to it, but it just loses its mind. It all sucks in on itself, which is not good. All right, compression stiffness, turn that off. All right, let's turn this down, see if that gets us something. I do not know. I don't know what this is doing. This is weird. This is a weird one. Distance along edges. I'm just going to turn that stiffness way down and see what happens. Yeah. That's an interesting one. Let's try a different one, I guess. I don't know. I'm like really confused about why I can't get the stiffness to. I really thought, oh, that is. Nope. That's not the answer. Interesting. I'm just very, oh God almighty. You know, I've never clicked into that, and I just was like, I wonder what it's like in here. Evil. It's evil in here. Whew. I mean, whew. Sent a chill down my spine. All right. Just out of curiosity, what if we did this? Nope, not that. Just cloth with like a little bit of this, maybe? I don't know. Blend, have a couple different constraints. Yeah, see, it's interesting because what we're getting now is this stuff that doesn't want to bend very much, but we actually want it to bend a lot and then like stop, right? So that's kind of the interesting thing that we're getting here. Yeah, yeah, you can. I mean, yeah, they're all going to influence it, right? So like if I had this cloth here and like set this to something like shape match, let's just revert this to factory defaults. So then it's like a shape match cloth almost, like it's sort of both in a way. Like it's going to try to figure out all those constraints. And I think, yeah, it's not going to be too happy with that. Let me just see here. Maybe not. Oh, what? Shape match. Thank you. Like so. Yeah, this should be both of them now. Yeah, it's kind of just like how you can I mean, yeah, so it's trying to calculate all of those constraints simultaneously. So it's like it's kind of freaking it out at this point because it's like trying to do two things simultaneously that like are sort of exclusive to each other. So it's like, yeah, that's not really going to work. But yeah, you could certainly have multiple constraints and things like that because yeah, exactly. So so where did you go? Let's see. So you had plasticity rate. All right, let's try that. Were you using it on bend or on stretch? Just out of curiosity. Guessing bend. Let me make sure I don't have this stiffness too high. I don't know. Let's bring that down a little. Let's just start in the middle and see which way we want to go. Yeah, so what it does is it'll if you link up multiple constraints together, okay. Yeah, it's up to both. Gotcha. Yeah, so like if you have multiple constraints coming in here, right? So like say I did a shape match. Oh, I keep forgetting. So like say we do this and I do that. And if you have this set to something like shape match, right? And you look at this, at our output from those. Oh, this is pinned. That'll do it. So what you'll see is you have Vellum cloth constraint tags. And you should also have this right here. It says Vellum constraints 1. We could just call this shape match because what this is doing is it's all in one primitive, right? So like if you have stitching, if you have like things connected to each other, whatever, they're all getting fed into that one object, right? So in this case, this primitive, which is, what is it? The last one here, 58806. So here you've got 58806. It has all these vertices that are inside of it, right? So these are all linked together. These are all the vertices of this one primitive. And when it knows that the points are on that, right? So because they match with each other, it knows that these the points on stream 1 here are matching to the points on stream 2. They're not like named or anything like that, but it's matching them together because they're all equivalent, right? The point numbers are the same. So it's knowing how to constrain those points together with the primitives and attributes that are stored in the second stream. So that's what's going on there. So this is driving that. So you could have as many different types and all these kind of stiffnesses and all this stuff here, right? So you can see here that we've got, the bend stiffness is set to 1 and all that kind of stuff. So like here you can see this is in group bend. So these are bend constraints, and then there's also distance constraints. So there's a little bit of both. So that is probably what's going on inside of here. It's creating both of those constraints. Yeah, it'd be interesting. Let's just set this back to normal. No problem. I mean, yeah, I think it's funny because like sometimes you think, oh yeah, this one thing is going to be way easier than I thought it was going to be or whatever. But like it's funny, like with Vellum and stuff like that. Some things are really straightforward and simple, and other things are like incredibly complicated. Like in this case, doing the deformations and stuff like that is certainly going to be a really complicated thing to do, I think. I mean, unless I'm just I'm probably just missing something. But let me just enable the plasticity here. Just go way up with this. And, I'm trying to think if any of these are going to help. No, these are just dragging the... I don't know. I'm just playing around now. So another thing that you could possibly do here, just as maybe just another interesting thought, I'm going to take this out of here. Do the vellum cloth. And so maybe what you could do instead, I'm just gonna do a new cloth. Just do a new configure cloth. Okay. So let's do this. We'll do the same thing we did before. So let's do a primitive VOP. Don't know why I didn't do this before. Probably wasn't the smartest thing in the world, but hey. So let's do the same Voronoi noise, right? We did earlier. Let's do this. And let's use this to adjust the rest length scale. Let's do that. So let's do, not sure if this will work right from the start or not. Let's see. All right, let's try this out. Just out of curiosity. Not sure if rest length scale will adjust it or not, but it might. Nope. So let's just do this. Oh, what's this? What's a Vellum rest blend? Interesting. Not sure totally what that does, but that's okay. Oh, I wonder if I'm just naming it the wrong thing. Maybe it's just rest scale. Let's give that a shot. Nope. All right. So what we can do here is set this. Also, whoa, hey there. Also don't need the substeps so high anymore. Should work just fine. You know what? Also, I'm going to do a fit range because we do not want that to go all the way to 0. Now that I'm realizing it. So we'll do... something like that. Yeah, there we go. So what we could do there, let's see, we could maybe try a different noise as well. About this cellular noise, this might be more interesting. Okay, let me just do this first of all. Let me do a, why is that looking, is that looking for a UV? Is that what it's looking for? Unless I can just do this, maybe. Yeah, that's not gonna work. All right, let me make a UV. There we go. Interesting. I think I'm going to do a unified noise maybe instead. See if I can get some cellular stuff out of that. Oh, I wonder if it was through that float was causing the issue. Try that one more time. Or the fit. I shouldn't say that. Float. Nope. Okay. There we go. It's a little more, maybe a little more interesting. It's kind of cool. And that should, don't actually need that. Maybe a little too much. That's right. Probably want that fit range on there. So, let's see here. Sorry, just playing around with some noise types here. So I'm kind of in my own brain right now. Just feel like this should be. I don't know. I think I'm doing this wrong now. All right, maybe this will help. Maybe adding some of this bias in will help. Nope, does the opposite of what I'm wanting it to do. Cool. All right, well, I feel like I'm getting nowhere fast, and it's pushing on 10 o'clock, and so we're just going to call this for the evening. Yeah, sorry that unfortunately with the cloth didn't go so well. So hopefully you at least got something out of it. But yeah, so, well, anyways, hopefully that will give you at least some, maybe some new ideas about how to work with Vellum, or just realize what not to do. So either way, yeah, thanks for joining me tonight. And as always, please, if you're interested in suggesting some topics for next week's stream or a stream after that, good. Yeah, good. I'm glad at least cleared something up for you. Feel like I got lost in Voronoi or cellular noise world at the end there. But yeah, if you guys have any suggestions for future streams, I'd love to hear. It's always good to know what people are interested in and what, people are wanting to learn about. I do a lot of other random things, in my normal day-to-day life, as far as just like work for side effects and education stuff. So like right now, what I'm doing a lot of is Unreal Engine stuff. So, learning about metahumans and kin effects and some of that kind of stuff, and using Solaris to create environments for for Unreal, and to be able to add variants and different things like that using USD, and then bringing that into Unreal and working from there. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm working on in my normal life. So if any of that sounds interesting, you can always hop in the Discord and be like, yes, please, Unreal Engine stuff, or I don't know, whatever. A lot of what I do isn't the final kind of stuff, but it's conceptual and like how to get from point A to point B, and then taking it to the final render is kind of a whole nother question. But yeah, so like I said, hopefully that helped. Glad, Zach, that cleared some stuff up for you. But yeah, please join me on the Discord, and I will be trying to just, see what everybody's interested in. So I think that's going to be it for tonight. Yeah, so I'll sign off, and hopefully I will see you sometime soon. Thanks, everybody.